So for this next div tag, I'm actually going to go over to my designer panel here, CSS designer panel, and I'll create it sort of manually, if you will. I'm just going to click on, I can see that that's already selected. I'm going to click on the new selector button here, add selector. Now it may autofill something, I'm not sure, but we're going to change it regardless. Yes, it autofilled, I think, what was the most currently selected thing on the page. So I'm going to replace that. Keep the hashtag. Critical you keep the hashtag if you're doing this manually. Hashtag, and the new name will be container. Okay, container. Hit my return key, and now I can start to add properties. Now you can see here there's not much to choose from because show set is currently selected. So I can uncheck that and then start to add properties. Now I may go back and cheat and look at my other one here, but I'm going to start by guessing. I'm going to create a size and a location. So under width, pixels, I will just go and highlight that. And let's say I'm going to make it, I'll make it the same width as the top element. I'll make it 800 pixels wide. And maybe if I'll say just pixels, I'm just going to say 300 pixels tall. So 300, hit my return key. And let's give it a border. And border width, pixels, I'll make it a nice thick border, 4 pixels. Okay, hit my tab key. Style, solid. Color, oh, let's see, let's just pick something in the orange flavor. Right there, hit my return key. And I'm going to do something a little different here. I'm going to actually add a gradient, which is down here a bit farther. It's actually under background. You can also scroll down to these as you saw me doing here. Background color, background image, and then we have a box for gradient. Let me click that open here. Now it comes with sort of one that's already preset, if you will. Basically, you click on the little chip and you can establish a color. For example, click on the other chip, I can establish a color like that. So I'm going to go back, I'm going to make it kind of an reddish orange to white. So I'll do it from top to bottom. So we'll make this one a rich orange. And then the bottom one, I'll set it back to the orangish colors, but I'll make it very light, like that. So we'll get a gradient that appears like that. Hit my return key. And that's it for setting up the rule and the style. Now, it has yet to be applied to the page, though. Oh, you know what? Let me go back. I think I forgot a couple of things here, such as location. So I've got the width and the height. Just scroll down here to position. And here I'm actually going to put absolute. And from the top, pixels, I'm going to say, let's see if that other one is 450, let's say 500 pixels from the top. And I may adjust these, but 500 pixels from the top. And from the left, we'll make it consistent with the other one. We'll also make it 50 pixels from the left. 50, hit my enter key. And I think I'm good for now. Now I'm just going to apply the div to the page, again using my insert. And maybe I'll try it from the panel this time. Insert div. So you get the exact same dialog box. Now under ID, you see now it's available. So I kind of did the properties and the rule beforehand rather than clicking new CSS to create it after the point. Add insertion point is okay. Container, okay. And now if I scroll down, I should see a manifestation of that, which I do with the placeholder text. Now I don't see the gradient inside a design view. If you want to see the gradient, you will have to switch to live view. And there it is, looking beautiful. Okay, I'm going to go back to design view though, because that's how we're working here today. And I'm going to get rid of this placeholder text. Just highlight it and delete it and do a save all. Okay, so we've got our container in place. I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to go over to my other file. and have a look at what I had for container. You see I have a lot of other ones here. I'm just going to check. Okay, I did a width of 70%. So you know what? I'm going to change that so that you can appreciate it shrinking and expanding with the page. I was kind of going from memory here. So we'll change it to 70%. And then under positioning, I set it to relative. That's right, so that it will expand and contract. So I'm going to make these two changes. I believe I set that to auto and to auto. So let me go back to the other file. I'm just trying to imitate the same settings, if you will. So under container, make sure that's the current one selected. I'll change pixels. You can manually type the whole thing in 70%. Hit your enter key. There we go. And let me scroll down in here. Under positioning, let me change absolute to relative, because it's going to be relative to the page now. And left, I'm going to switch that back to auto, which means that, again, because we're using percentages, it will automatically locate itself. There we go. So you can see right now it's very close to the edge. Now I could go and keep it at 50. You know what? Maybe I will. So I'm going to break from the first one. Now this gives me a chance to show you when you scroll over the numbers, you can drag. It's a little less accurate, I find, but it does work. There we go, 50. Okay. I believe that's all the changes I want to make, so I'm going to go save all once again. And I'll quickly look at this in the browser. So we'll go to Safari in my case, and that's what we have. Now if I start to shrink that browser, you see how that box is modifying itself because it's relative to the size of the page, and it's 70% of the width. Now I have pinned down the right by making that an absolute number with pixels versus a percentage or versus the auto feature. Okay, so let's go back here. We're getting there. So now we're going to nest or insert 3 div tags that will go inside of this box. So if that box moves, they will relatively move along with it. And I'll demonstrate that when the time comes. So I'm going to go back to my original method through the insert. I'm going to click inside of here. You see I'm clicking inside of my container here, and I'm going to go insert div. Now this is where we kind of change from what we've been doing. Insert after start of tag. That means it will be inserted inside of the div tag, and it'll be the first item. So after start of tag. Now we have to tell it which tag, and it's the tag called container. Okay, so that means that this will be the first thing that appears nested in the code inside a container. You see the insert point right there? It's actually reflecting what I'm about to do here. So I will create a new CSS rule. If I go to ID, there is none. I'm going to call this one left box, one called right box, and one called mid box. So new CSS rule. Again, we're creating almost all IDs today. And I'll call it left box, camel case. Yes, I do want to ensure it's going inside of my external style sheet. I click OK, and I get the next dialog box, which is, well, how do you want to decorate this thing? So I will start with position and size. Position, this is going to be relative to the container that it's in. So I will say absolute, but it's absolute with respect to what it's inside of. I'm going to say width, let's go 200 wide by, I'll just say 200 tall again. Location, I'm going to say 20 pixels from the top. And again, that'll be 20 pixels from the top of this box, not the top of the page. And left, let's see here. I think left, I will lock this down as well to 20 pixels from the left. Again, I reserve the right to make some changes afterwards. And I'll just decorate this with some background and a border. So border, again, I'm always going solid here on the borders. You can make dotted lines and so on. And just for fun, let's just pick medium and then give it a color. Oh, let's go with a bright green, I guess, right there. Hit my enter key. And let's give it a background color. I'll give it a very light green, like that. Hit my enter key, and I think we're good here. There we go, and I click OK, and this will actually insert it on the page, and there it is. So I'm just going to change this. I'm just going to narrow this down to the word left box. Double click it, come down to my properties under CSS and center that. Actually, you know what? Because it's the left box, let me align it to the left. Okay, and then the right one I'll align to the right. And I'll just leave that at its default font settings and do a save all. Now we haven't dealt with stacking orders yet. I'll come back to that, I think. We'll maybe restack these. We may need to set stacking orders on what I'm about to create here as well. Let's take a quick look in live view though. And this is what we have at this time. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my design view. Alright, so I'm going to add another one now. I'll add a right box. It'll be basically the same, but we're going to stick it to the right and add a different color. And that'll be pretty well it. So it's kind of repeat. So I'm going to click inside of my design view again here. You notice I'm always working from within design view today. It's a slightly different approach when we're working from code view and so on. Let me insert another new div. This time, I want it to be after that div tag. So if you think logically, I want it to be before end of tag. So it means it will appear last within the tags, if you will. So I'm putting it after this first one. Which tag? Of course, I need to specify the container tag. And there are no IDs yet to pick from, so I will create a new one by going new CSS rule, ID, we'll call this right box. And make sure it goes inside of my external CSS style sheet. Click OK, and then I get to decorate it and set its properties, its rules, if you will. I like to start with positioning. Again, I will say absolute on this one. Width, let's just keep it simple to remember. It's 200 by 200. Top, again, I'll just go 20 from the top, easy to remember. And this time I want it from the right. I'm going to say 50 pixels from the right, which means it'll be pinned to the top right corner of its container. Okay, we'll put a border on this guy as well. For the heck of it, let's go with a dotted border. I'm straying from the original lesson a little. Dotted border, medium, and let's just go with the red and hit my enter key. I'll give it a background color as well. We'll go with sort of a light peachy color. There we go. Hit my enter key, hit OK, and hit OK to actually insert it. There we go with my fancy dotted line. Okay, I'm just going to delete everything except the word right box, and then I'm going to align that box by double clicking it, align it to the right. Now if I wanted to create margins, I could do that as well in the style box, but I'm going to keep it simple today, if you will. Right box, left box, save all. Now I will take a look at this in the browser and resize the browser to demonstrate what we have so far. Okay, so you see how that is pinned to the right. Okay, so there we go. So I'm going to create another box in the middle, and instead of having a fixed pixel location, I'm going to say make it 40% from the left and leave the rest set to audio. I might actually give it a distance in pixels from the top, but from the left, I'm going to go with a percentage on this next one. So I'm going to go back to Dreamweaver. And we'll do the same thing. I'm going to just click inside of here. Now this one, I'd like to appear, let's see, if I click on this box here and then click beside it, I can see my insert point is still left after right box. So I'm just going to put the mid one in next, and it will appear in the code after the right box because I'm going to put it after the code. And to be quite honest with you, it doesn't really matter where it sits within the nesting because its location and stacking order and everything else is determined by CSS. So let me just go insert, div. Actually, I will put this one also before end of tag, so it will appear last, if you will. container, and I don't have an ID, so I'll create one, and we'll call this, we'll go ID, we'll call this midbox. Okay, make sure it's going into my external style sheet, hit my enter key. This one I'm going to put an image in, so I won't bother giving it a background color, but I will give it a border. But let's start with positioning. Position, we're going to go relative, because I'm going to be changing its location on the left. Width, let's go 200 by 100, because I know the image size is 200 by 100 that I'm about to place in it. Placement, top, let's go 20 pixels from the top, and from the left we're going to go with 40%. My tab key, 40%. Border, okay, let's just give it a solid border. I'll go with 3 pixels, and I'll make it blue. Okay, hit my enter key. I think that's it. Let me click OK. Click OK. And let's just see what we get here. Actually, you know what? Before I see what I get, let me just delete that and insert the image. It's stacking order that I'm going to be a little concerned with, and I think I'm going to push this guy down a bit too. Anyhow, let me just click inside of there, go to my insert tab, image, and grab that small image of the car. Okay, car blue. I'm just waiting for my computer. There we go. I will do a save all right now. I know I want to go back though and move that mid box down. So I'm going to select mid box here. And if I go show set, I should be able to see it a little easier. Top, let me just, I can actually drag that. I'll try to get 50. And you see how it updated live on the screen. Now there's this thing called ZIndex as well here. If I click that down, and that's the stacking order. The higher the number, the higher it is in the stacking order. Let's just see what we have right now. I'm going to do a save all, and then we may adjust some of the stacking order. I'm definitely going to do it on the top here just to demonstrate. But let's see what we have. Safari. Okay, so when I shrink this guy and these get smaller, now they do appear in order of creation. This was created first, second, and third. You can see how that's right box is slightly overlapping the green box. This is overlapping everything. So those are good to go. But let's say I wanted to change the stacking order. Let's say I wanted the car to be underneath these guys. Let's go back and we'll change the ZIndex. And it's just a case of making a number that's higher than another number, if you will. So on right box, let me go down here. It's just below here, just below positioning. You see ZIndex. I'm just going to go in there, and I'll give it a number of 10 to start with. So that means technically I could have 9 things underneath it if I wanted to insert them. Let's go to mid box. Now I'm doing this manually. Mid box, ZIndex. I'm going to say 20. So 20 is a higher number than 10. Actually, you know what? If I want to put it underneath just to demonstrate, I'll say 5, which is lower than 10. Okay, let's just save all and check that out to see if that's working. I will put it back to 20, I think, though, afterwards, because I do want it to be on top. But right now, I've moved it underneath the right box, which is the yellow box here. So let's see if that actually works. You see, now it's covering it. So that's your ZIndex. That's your stacking order. Okay. So I'm going to just modify that. I'll go back to Dreamweaver and I'll give it a higher number for mid-box. So something higher than 10. So I'll say 20. Again, that instead of going 1, 2, 3, you're limiting yourself, and you may have to make changes after. Always leave gaps in the numbers when you're creating ZIndex settings. And this one I could formally set, but it's on the bottom. So by default, it stays on the bottom. Now, just to drive this home with respect to the ZIndex, I'm going to change the stacking order of these 2 top div tags as well. So this left one here is the div tag called left absolute. and the car is called right absolute. Let me just scroll down into my styles here. So I'll try right absolute, which is the car, and I'll change the ZIndex. I'll give it a number. I'll assign a number down here. Here we have ZIndex, which is just below the positioning stuff. I'll double click on there, and I'll actually just assign a 5 to that and hit my return key. So 5 pushed it to the top of that little pile. So if I want to push the left absolute div tag above this, I need to assign a number higher than 5. So what I propose to do is I'll go and select it here. I propose to assign a 10 to it, and that just gives me a little breathing space in between to potentially slide different elements in between them, if you will. So ZIndex, let me type in 10, hit my return key, and that pushed it to the top because 10 is higher than 5. So that's the stacking order, if you will, using the ZIndex feature, and the higher the number, the higher it is in the pile. Now let me just go back down to these elements again. There was one thing I wanted to change on left box so it would be true to my assignment, if you will. I actually don't want it to be an absolute width. I want to make it a relative width, so I'm going to change it to a percentage. So I know that left box dictates that div tag. So let me go and find the left box and just click on show set if I want to narrow the list here, and under width I'm going to change it from 200 pixels to 40%. So I'm changing it to a percentage. Once I hit enter, you'll see it change. There we go. So now that's going to be 40% of its container width because it's nested inside of the div tag called container. So this will always be fixed to the left, but the right side will shrink and contract depending on how big the browser window is. So let me do a save all. I can see the asterisk there. Save all, which will save not only my file but my CSS file. And one more look inside of the browser to make sure that it's doing what I want it to do. Okay, so there it is there. You can see it is wider, and this should change in size as my browser width changes. And you can see there that it's maintaining a 40% width of its containers width. And these other two are moving according to how we'd set them previously. But I did want that green box to shrink and contract. The other two are staying fixed. The right box is pinned to the right if you to the left, but the size will change. In the middle box, it has an absolute size, but its location is relative in that the width or the distance from the left to the left of its container will be 40%. So that will vary as well as the browser width changes. And that is our lesson for today on controlling div tags using Dreamweaver. When you've finished this, zip up your root folder and upload it to Blackboard, please. And that ends our lesson.